so continuing on from the previous recording for 3.2 up here. So we want $3 million to be our 3%. We want to say, what does the sales have to be in order for us to make $3 million? So that $3 million would, in fact, be your part. Right? So we have our percent equation here. Part equals percent times whole, my percent in decimal form. Luke, do you know what we would need to do?
You could divide, the sales. Wouldn't we have to give it a number?
We're looking for that number. So right now, we want to look at it like it's a variable. We can just say it's going to be S, but we want to get it by itself. Crystal? Ethan?
Divide by 0.03 on both sides.
So you guys, you want to get in this habit. Ethan's absolutely correct because he looked at how are they attached. They're attached with multiplication. The opposite would be division. What number do I want to get rid of? The 0.03. So I divide by 0.03. Those get rid of each other because it's 1 times your variable, which is just your variable. So when over here you divide by 0.03, sorry, not 0.3, but 0.03.
It's like 100 million.
So the sales, yeah, it's a lot, right? What do you get? What's your actual number?
100 million.
Yeah, it's 100 million.
Oh,
So if the movie was projected to only make $80 million, offer A would be better.
wow.
If the movie was projected to make $200 million, offer B would be way better. And when we start talking about like how much movies gross, how much movies make, let's do a quick Google search
Great.
of what did not that
What did?
Hunger Games
No, Star
Gross.
Wars.
box office mojo is normally pretty reliable. $424 million.
That's not that lie. Hunger Games.
That was ketchup.
Okay, $400 million isn't a lot. Sorry to tell you, that in our situation is way more than what we would need to say that offer B is better. Because if we had, let's just say we had $400 million. Let's not even worry about the 24. If this was $400 million, what would 3% of that be? Well, essentially, we can move this decimal over twice and then times it by 3.
Oh, hold on.
I believe it would be $12 million.
I got
Yes.
that.
That is right.
So, if the actors in Hunger Games were offered either of these deals, if you took offer A, you regret your decision. Because you'd only make $3 million, that's all you get, period. If you took offer B, as soon as you get over $100 million in sales, you're making more money than offer A would have. So that's when you have to think about, like, what is the movie going to gross? What is it projected? How good do I think it is, really? $100 billion? That's
well,
a lot.
He wants to be a soccer player.
Yeah, I don't even think soccer players are making billions of dollars.
Oh,
They're
what about
lucky to make
Messi?
millions.
Messi makes lots
No,
of
none
money
of them
in
make
period.
billions.
Yeah, but they always end up
All right,
ridiculous.
so now we get into using your percent equation for multi-step problems. When we talk about having sales tax on something, sales tax is going to be a part that is added on to your cost.
I hate it.
So the first thing you would do is calculate what the tax is. Most of the time, our sales tax here in Ohio is about 7.5%.
I heard it was 6 point something.
It depends on where you go. It's as low as 6.75 in some places.
When I went to breakfast on Sunday,
Yeah.
Sunday,
So let's
6.
let's just land between, actually. Let's just say it's 7%. We'll make our life easy. So then sales tax in Ohio, we would calculate this by saying 0.07 times whatever your cost was. So let's say you go buy a video game. Most video games are like $50, right?
No, yeah.
40, 60,
Okay. So I'm going to land in between and say they're about $50. Here's one of those tricks. if I move this decimal over to the right, I could move my other decimal over to the left, and now it's really like 7/10 times 5. I can think of that as 7 times 5 and move my decimal back. This would actually give me
3.5.
$3.50. So your total cost that you pay, you'll have to take that sales tax of $3.50 and add the price of the item. So the total that you would then pay is $53.50. Now, does anyone know what you don't have to pay tax on?
Oh,
Food.
no, we actually pay tax for food.
Oriana?
Never mind.
Eli?
Like at the supermarket.
Food at the grocery. Yeah, food that you are going to take home and prepare. And there's very specific, like, what counts and what doesn't. Like, a bucket of ice cream, I think, has tax on it because it's not a necessity. Like, fruits, vegetables, grains, like, the things that you need aren't taxed. Because tax is, like, the extra that then goes to the government to pay for all kinds of things. Yeah, bread would not have tax
I
on it
hate
either.
taxes.
What about a car?
Sales tax.
Car you totally pay tax on.
Sales tax. They
You
should
don't
ban-
need a car.
You could walk.
You could totally survive without a car. You can't survive without food. You know?
I mean, sales tax should be banned in America.
So then, where would our school get its funding?
Oh, I mean,
Where would the roads
they
get the money
they
to
should be-
repave them?
Oh,
Where would we get the money to pay for police or fire or maintenance workers that put up electric lines? Or so that when you start talking about let's get rid of this, you'd have to find the money elsewhere. And then subtraction. When you talk about, sorry, it did not click over. When you talk about commission, when I worked at Macy's, I made commission on everything I sold. So your commission is a percent of what you sold. So my commission, if I remember right, was 9% of whatever I sold. So that would be 0.09. So that looks like an extra decimal there. Times, let's say I sold a $100 bracelet. So on a $100 bracelet, 9% of that is going to be $9. So then the base price of the item is your selling price. This is goofed up. Yeah. So you take your selling price, subtract away what your commission, what you earned, and the base price that the store, whatever you're talking about, is actually 91. Now that doesn't mean that that's what they paid for it. That means they're saying that's how much money the store will get, not profit, but just what they'll get. Since I got $9, the store got $91. Because I got my commission, the store got their cut. But you, like the consumer, only paid $100. Kind of makes sense?
Yes.
It'll make more sense as we do more of it. All right. Let's try our first example here. You are going to dinner with your soccer team.
Panthers Soccer Club party of 15? Oh boy, this is gonna be fun.
So now, wherever they are, wherever this state is, they're lucky because their sales tax is only 5%. Don't get confused that, wait, I went out to eat. Why is there tax? When you eat in a restaurant, there's always going to be tax. I think in the drive-through, there might not be.
Yeah,
We were having this debate the other day. I don't know.
Well, it's rarely when you order in the drive-through, they rarely give you tax on the food.
They tax you for soda.
Yeah, well, they tax you for
Okay, so
soda.
depending on what you get. Yeah, that's interesting. I challenge you guys, if you go through the drive-thrus or go out to eat or anything, try to bring in your receipts. Like, ask your parents if you can have the receipt, because we'll put up a bulletin board with receipts and look at the tax rate and everything else.
Well,
Can you guys do that
I
for
always
me?
get receipts all the time. I always
Yeah.
check receipts.
Yeah.
That's
So, if we want to figure out the tax amount for this meal, where did Thomas go? Oh yeah, he left. And all right, Divine, can you tell me if we know that the tax rate is 5%? I want you guys on your paper. Actually, I'll use your help in a second. I want you on your paper to write tax equals percent times. Actually, we're gonna say subtotal. We want to start using that word. Your subtotal. What does sub mean? under or before, right? So your subtotal is the total before the tax is added on with it.
So you're gross.
Be careful using words like gross and net because that's more like you gross money, you net. It's yeah,
Profit.
Yeah, gross is gross.
gross is gross. So Divine, do you know what I would use, what numbers I would use, and plug in where?
Subtotal 142.
Yeah, my subtotal is 142.
Percent 5.
Now can I just plug in 5?
No, 0.05.
0.05 because I have to convert that to its decimal form.
And then
So when we compute that, what do you get?
0.7.
7.1? So really, it's money. You guys gotta get in the habit. Money has to have 2 decimal places. So my amount of tax is $7.10. Then I add that to my bill and find out that my total is $149.10. And I don't know what's going on with my smart board.
Because you add 7.
You add.
7.
Saturday day we can talk to who.
Mr.
Yeah, question? Eli?
Why do we use 2 decimals at the end of?
Because you never talk about money as just being like $3.2. You could say it's $3.20. You wouldn't just say $3.02. Like you could, but that's not really how we say it. So all finance, like numbers, have 2 decimal places. Even if they're zeros, it just has 2 decimal places to show the accuracy. Because if you only said 7.1, I don't know if this next space is a 0 or if you just forgot to write it. Because it could be like a 4, and that changes the value. So you write the 0 so that people don't question, like, what is that next space? I know. My 0 sometimes do, especially when my smart board's acting up. Yeah. Dollars. And it has 2 vertical bars for dollar signs.
On iPhones, it just has 1.
I know, which is wrong.
We all have been
I
tricked.
was right the whole time.
All right, try this on your own. You now want to leave a tip. So you're using the same receipt from above. Notice you got it right beside the example there. You know your total. However, when you leave a tip, and a lot of adults do this wrong, when you leave a tip, you should be tipping based off the subtotal amount. You don't need to tip on the tax that you paid. You tip on all the food and drinks and everything else that you bought. So you want to calculate your tip to be 18% of the subtotal. And if I write that out in a mathematical sentence, your tip is 18% of the subtotal. Is means equal, of means multiply. Try this. I'm going to reorient my board and hope it maybe helps.
Got it.
Oh yeah, that's before taxes. I did with taxes.
All right, Crystal, can you tell me how I should change my equation before I can actually use my calculator to solve this? Mr. Bunger, please join us. What? Sorry, go ahead. Do you want to phone a friend? Katie behind you looks like she's ready to volunteer. Yeah, we got to move this decimal over. So we use 0.18. I'm actually going to bring this down here. So I'm going to say my tip is 0.18. And then what do I use for subtotal? My subtotal is 142. Yeah, so we use that subtotal right here. My tip amount, we can just say T, ends up being
Okay. Oh, it's
Luke.
25.5.
$25.56.
Thank you for saying it correctly.
yeah, I don't know.
I calculate for the 175.
So, the question is, if the coaches, or the team, but I would assume the coaches are paying, only brought $175, do they have enough?
Yes.
No, let me see.
How do you figure that out,
I
Divine?
don't know.
Phony.
Okay.
Can I choose?
Cassidy?
Yeah, Cassidy.
You would add them together.
Add what
Well,
with
you would
what?
add the total, like the 149.
Yeah, now we have to use our 149. I'm going to leave that.
Then you'd add that.
It's actually wait, 42 plus 49.
So what do they end up paying all together, tip included?
They don't have it.
Hunger?
$174.66.
Thank you.
Barely.
So they would probably just leave all their money. They would probably just leave the whole $175 because you don't really need 34 cents in change. They would probably, like most people, because you normally tip between 15 and 20% if your service was good.
Wait, that's 10, 5, 5.
Wait, what if it's bad service? How?
You still, so that, every time I teach this lesson, that question gets asked, what if it's bad service? So have you ever, even as just a middle school student, had a bad day and maybe didn't perform as good as you could have?
No.
I did.
No, never. You've never maybe not done your best.
I did.
I've always done my best.
Well, that's good to hear. People in the real world are not always going to have like the best day possible. So if you go and you have a server who didn't do a wonderful job, but you got your food, you got your drinks, like they did their job, you still tip. You normally tip 10 to 15% then. Because servers aren't paid very much. Servers can get paid below minimum wage because they are a tippable position. So like minimum wage right now is like $8.
$8.25.
There you go, 8 and a quarter. But minimum wage for a server is like $4.
An hour?
Yeah, because they're assuming they will get tips. So luckily when I worked at Jimmy John's, I made normal minimum wage, and then if I went out on delivery drives, I made tips. But that tip money was essentially to pay for my gas. Eli?
Can I ask an unrelated math question?
I'd prefer it to be related, but sure, I refuse the right to not answer it. Or I reserve the right to not answer it.
So, what's that little E sign on the calculator when the number gets really big?
Oh, that means exponent. So it means to the power.
Yeah,
E essentially means times 10 to the something. So if it says E7, that means it's times 10 to the 7th power. It's scientific notation. We don't really use big enough numbers to care about that this year. All right, we got to keep moving on. I will take more questions here in just a
You
minute.
could get any of these cars here. You could, but don't you want this one? Don't you want this sound system? These leather seats? These rims? Isn't paying a little extra now for all that enjoyment later worth it? If you ask me, I say you belong in this car right here. If you ask me, you are worth it.
I got a friend named Clark. He works at CarMax.
Comics is the best.
CarMax is a good place to go buy your car. There's no haggling. There's no change in prices, which is good for this example. The price on the car is what you're going to pay for the car, which is pretty fair because when you go to a car lot and you try to like argue with the guy, it's no fun. It's easier to say, I'm going to pay that much for this car. So at this dealership, the car salesman or sales lady, salesperson, somebody brought this up that this is a sexist term. And I said, well, okay, maybe, but woman and man, they both have man in it. So you can kind of argue like, salesman is kind of gender neutral. So if their commission rate is 6%, I want you guys to calculate how much the car salesman would earn on each car, and then how much is the car dealership going to make? Not profit, but just what are they going to get from the sale of the car? Huh? Salesman or the dealerships? It depends on how old the car is. Like some cars that they sell, they end up losing money on because it's old and they're just trying to get it off the lot. most new cars, they make a good amount of money on.
Oh, I'm gonna sell my 2016 Camaro.
So reminder, commission. Hey guys, you do not need to be talking to figure this out. Your commission is your commission rate. So we'll just say rate times the price of the vehicle.
I want.
And I'm going to snapshot this, and then I'm going to pull up our notes so I have a little bit more room to work. Question or answer, Eli? Answer.
I guess you like Snapchat.
I don't even have Snapchat.
But what about per V? How much will the dealership make still? So if you know how much the salesman is going to make, you can figure out what the dealership makes by figuring out the difference between them. We'll try to match with the cars. You don't have to.
Oh wait.
Do you think it will help us on our homework if we write it?
I always think that writing down more helps you. There's lots of research that says the more you write things down, the better you remember it.
And I got 188.
I don't think I did it.
Yo. Yeah, we're gonna do that together. I figured some people might. It's back at the top part of your notes, the subtraction one.
Alright, let's go back to
Uh-huh.
Why is there a C there, but not a C over there?
Because I just didn't copy it down yet. So, Eminal,
What? Yeah.
what is the commission that the salesperson is gonna make on our blue car?
What I got was $1,008.
$1,008. So then how, we're going to say what the dealer makes. We're going to call that D. How do I calculate how much the dealer makes? Luke?
Can I also say the answer?
Yeah.
Okay, so you subtract the original amount by how much the car dealer makes. And for the first one, they'll make $15,719.
So easy way to remember how much the dealer is going to make is the price of the car minus the commission. So we take the price $16,800 minus $1,800, and that dealer in that situation makes, sorry, say it again, Luke.
$15,792.
$15,792. So if they only paid $12,000 for the car, they're making almost $800 in profit. So that's where it comes in. What did they pay? And we're going to talk about pricing up items here a little bit later in the chapter. Eli, what about my second car, my little bit sportsier car?
The commission is $1,524.
$1,524. And when I find the difference between the selling price and the commission that we made, the dealership is going to make $23,876. Did you say?
Yeah.
Sweet. And we will try to go class answer on this one. Commission for the crazy race car looking thing?
It's a NASCAR.
$1,980.
Yeah.
And that leaves my dealership making
$31,050.
$31,020. There we go. And the decimal point helps to clarify that my number ends there, and then you can put zeros if you want, but you don't have to. Any questions on any three of those? So what do you think the salesman is going to try to do?
Steal it.
Luke? Hey Luke, can you not give an answer with your mouth full? We'll move on to someone else for the time being. Cassidy? He can't raise the price of the car. The price of the car is fixed. Wait, here's a better question, easier question to answer at least. Which car do you think he's going to try to get you to buy? Is your food chewed? Because you still look like a chipmunk. Yeah, it's not. Cassidy? Yeah, if he wants to make the most money, he's going to try to put you in the more expensive car. So that's where, and some of you guys, you know, anybody in this room could end up selling cars. You got to figure out, is that going to annoy my customer? Because if a salesperson starts doing that to me, I'm leaving. I'm not dealing with that. Like, I know that you're going to make money off of me. Don't try to make more money off of me. Our realtor, all realtors, the people that you buy houses with, they make commission. So here's our next example, is a real estate agency. What I really liked about my realtor, she didn't at all try to push us towards more expensive houses. I told her, like, here's my budget. I want to stay with like a house I can afford. And she was perfectly fine with that. If my realtor kept pushing me to more expensive houses, I wouldn't have used them. So that's the whole, like, you have to know your clientele. Crystal?
My mom's a realtor and she's like that, and she got a house done in less than.
That's awesome. Yeah. When we were house searching, it took us a couple months to find our house, and I think we looked at almost 30 different homes. So I was one of those customers that the realtor was probably like, come on, buy the house already. Like, but when we found this house right down the road, we were like, okay, that's probably the house. But that day, she lined up like 10 houses for us. So we still went and saw 8 other houses after we saw the house that we bought. But the whole day, we're like, nah, we like that house better. Nah, we like that house better. So real estate agents, they make a little less percentage. Anyone have a guess of why their percentage would be less than maybe a car salesman? Or like jewelry salesman, my commission was 9%. The car salesman made 6%, and now this realtor's making 3%. Why do you think they make less of a percent, Isaiah?
Because houses are very expensive.
Yeah, cars are a lot more expensive than jewelry. Houses are way more expensive than cars, most of them at least. So that's why they're going to make a less percentage. You could make 1% off the sale of a house and still make a good amount of money. So let's say, and this is a pretty average price home for the Worthington, well, depending on what part of Worthington you live in. Yeah, the nicer part, that's probably a average home price. That's why I don't live in the nicer part of Worthington. So this house sold for $345,000, and the realtor gets 3% of that. So let's calculate their commission.
Got it.
Well, we know that the commission is going to be the percentage times the sale. So it's my percent times my selling price.
$10,350.
Hey, calm down. So my percent, I first change to 0.03 times my house price, $345,000. And now our commission becomes, Eli? $10,300. What was that? 50. So guys, 3% may not sound like a lot, but when it's 3% of a house price, this realtor sold one house and made $10,000. Crystal, if you want, it'd be interesting. I bet your mom doesn't make 3% because that seems high for a commission percentage. If you want to ask her and tell her, she doesn't have to tell us, but I'm curious what her percent is. I'm guessing it'd be high 1s or low 2s, but it depends on what company she works. Is she an independent realtor or like working with a company?
He's working with a company. He Key Realty.
Yeah, Key. Yeah, I've heard of them. They have, I don't know if the bank is connected with a real estate company or not, but they're a bigger one. So what did the seller then get? So when you sell your house, you're like, yay, we sold it for $345,000, but you don't actually get all of that. Now, the nice thing is when you buy a house, the commission doesn't affect you. When you sell your house, that's when the commission affects you. So, Bella, how would I find what the seller still gets?
You take $345,000 and you subtract 10,350.
And we get that the seller still made $334,600, which is still pretty darn good.
That's a lot of money. It's actually not.
It's $650.
650. Sorry, thank you for getting me before I captured it. All right, try the got it on your own. I'm gonna walk around and check if you guys are good. Car salesman again makes 6% commission. The question that really comes out of this is what type of cars are you selling? So we want to argue, would it be better to make 6% commission, or would you rather just get $1,500 flat? Well, that's not what the car price is. That is, so guys, this is just like the movie question at the beginning of the lesson. If you have the option of 6% or $1,500 flat, you have to make the argument for which one's better, and we need to know a little bit more information. So just like we did earlier, like on the front with that movie problem, who can tell me what to do here? Oh?
So what I did is I took $1,500 per car, and I multiplied that by 600, or wait, 90. Or if you divide 600 is what I did.
So you really set up, if this was your part, we're saying, what would the car price, hey, up here, I'm up here, thanks. What would the car price have to be to get $1,500? So we do 6% of some price of car that we don't know. So that's why then Bella said she divided by 600ths. So the price of the car would have to be, I think it might be 9,000. I don't like the iPhone calculators. It's okay.
I know, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
65. That's
25,000.
that's it.
So, if you were on a lot that sold cheaper cars, less than $25,000 vehicles, which would you rather take? The flat pay or the commission percentage?
I want to get a good price.
Yeah, 6%. I'll say 6%.
You have made a bad deal. Because if you sold cars cheaper than this, your commission would be less than $1,500. You'd rather take the flat rate. If you sold cars that were more expensive than $25,000, then your commission would go up above the $1,500. So this is what we call a threshold. That's the point where the deal changes. Up until $25,000, the flat fee is the better deal. Above $25,000, the commission is the better deal. So I'm telling you now, there's gonna be a question like this on your mastery where you have to figure out what that threshold point is, like how much you'd have to make for the commission to be a better deal. So be ready for that on your mastery.
Is that life?
I mean, it's real world math. So,
When are we gonna be getting our service in Nebraska?
oh, crap. Get them at AO.
What if we don't have AO?
At any point in the middle of the day. Like, once I get done teaching in second block, I'll print them. I just forgot to do it this morning. We had a couple things come up. So, check out our option A versus option B. We want to figure out which deal here is better. Which option should you choose? And obviously, you want to make the most money. I had somebody say, well, what if I don't care about making money? Trust me, in the real world, you care about making money.
Yeah, like reffing soccer. Make money.
So, do you know how to walk through it?
No.
Or do you have a question?
I had something else for later topic.
Well, we don't have enough time, I'm sorry.
Please excuse the interruption. Could I please have Grant Carpenter
Okay.
to the office?
Well, I would assume to the office. So, she plans to work 4 hours a week, or 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. If you work 4 hours a day, 5 days a week, how many total hours is that? Just give it to me.
12,000.
20, right?
Oh.
Because it's like 4 times 5. Then, she estimates that she can sell about $200 worth of clothing. So which option would give Taylor more earnings? Now, option B, and you won't find this most places, option B pays only commission, which actually, I may or may not be right. I have to give that caveat since it's going to be on the internet. I'm fairly certain CarMax is a commission-only base pay, which can be really good if you sell a lot. If you stink at selling things, it can be really bad.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, that's how the math works.
So you don't even. So you just apply for the job just to get money.
If you show up and just try to sell cars but never sell a car, you don't make money.
What? That's.
But the point of the job is sell cars.
I know, but.
So that's like if I show up and I don't
five,
teach,
maybe like $2 an hour. At least.
right? Like, so that's like,
At least
when I worked at
money.
Macy's, I had a base plus commission. Crystal?
My mom said 6% without staging, 6.5 with staging.
Ah,
That's a
wow.
lot of
Power of technology. I meant like
Yes.
ask her tonight, but all right.
I'm actually.
That's interesting. So her market is probably a little bit different though. I bet like $345,000. That's kind of expensive for a home around like that's one of the nicer Worthington homes.
It's like Worthington Hills area.
So if we gotta like really quick get through this. If she works for 20 hours to compute her hourly wage, to compute her total wage, we take the hourly wage times 20. $143. If she sells $200 to figure out the commission, be 0.18 times 200. You got it?
Per day, and so what I did was
Yeah, I was gonna multiply after.
times 5
It's
times
36.
0.18 is 100. So that's per week.
So if I divide that by so Ethan said she's doing 5 days. So for the week, he went ahead and multiplied by 5 and got 180. So which deal is better, deal A or deal B? Option B is better, assuming she's able to make that many sales. But she'd have to make that many sales. That's everything I got for you guys today. Check back with me later for the Progressing to Mastery. Thank you very much. Yes.
When I went to math for Monday,